Tuan Wabarakatuh and good morning. Today our group will be presenting on review paper of a bioseparation process for removing heavy metals from waste water using biosorbents. Okay, for introduction. Nowadays, urbanization contribute to increasing in the rate at which effluents are discharged into the environment, especially water bodies. Most of these effluents contains toxic substances, especially heavy metals. Heavy metals are among the conservative pollutants that are not subject to bacterial attack or other breakdown or degradation process and are permanent additions to the marine environment. Its concentration often exceeds the permissible level, normally found in soil, waterways and sediment, thus can disrupt biological processes. Okay, the heavy metal toxicology. Because of the urbanization, there are many heavy metals found in soil, water and sediments. So these are some heavy metal, which is chromate, cadmium, lead, copper, mercury, arsenic and nickel. Those heavy metal can cause bad effect to human being. First of all, chromate give mutagenic, carcinogenic and teratogenic effects. Cadmium cause ita-ita disease, kidney dysfunction, hepatic damage and hypertension. Lead can cause encephalopathy, seizures and mental retardation. Copper can deposit in brain, skin, liver, pancreas and myocardium. Mercury attacks the lung, kidneys and the brain. Arsenic affect the skin, causing skin cancer. And lastly, nickel, which is has not been known yet the effect to human being.
Okay, this is the method to absorb the heavy metal. One way is the absorption. The difference between absorption and adsorption. Adsorption is the ability of the adsorb to either they attach to the absorbent. So, such as activated charcoal, which is at the surface of the active charcoal, they absorb it, not absorb into it. So, it's a well-established separation technique to remove dilute pollutant as well to recover valuable product from eco-streams. Then there are two divided into two: van der Waals forces and van der forces. Van der Waals forces is called the physical absorption, and the van der forces is chemical absorption. So, absorption removal of heavy metal from aqueous influent by using activated charcoal or activated alumina. Activated carbon is a porous material with an extremely large surface area and intrinsic absorptions to many chemicals. Then, polymer resins that can form complex with the heavy metal ions are the best absorbent. These are called conventional absorbent, and many others have been reported, such as silica gel, active alumina, zeolite, metal oxide and so on. This process may be ineffective because expensive, especially when heavy metal ions solutions containing in order of 1 to 100 mg dissolved heavy metal ions. Then activated carbon is only able to remove 30 to 40 mg of cadmium, zinc and chromium in water, and is not regenerable, which is quite costly to waste treatments. Okay, next.
Okay, next for the biosorption process. Okay, this biosorption or bioremediation process is consists of a group application which involve the detoxification of hazardous substances. Okay, this process is less disruptive and can be often carried out on site. Okay, for this process, these biosorbents is used to prepare from naturally abundant or waste biomass. This mechanism by which organisms to remove metal, they have three mechanisms, which are extracellular accumulation or precipitation, cell surface sorption or complexation, and intracellular accumulation. For the agricultural byproducts, there are two modes of sorption, which are intrinsic desorption and Coulombic interaction. Okay, for the Coulombic interaction can be observed from the absorption of cationic species versus anionic species on absorbent. Okay, lastly for the intrinsic absorption determined by their surface area, which can be observed by the effect of different sizes of absorbent and absorption capacity.
Okay, for the sorption isotope studies is conducted to determine the amounts of species that absorbed under a given set of conditions, which is concentration or temperature. And then for the second two, how selective the absorption take place when two or more absorbent component coexist, which is macam kalau untuk wastewater kita gunakan sewage contohnya, kita letakkan dalam heavy metal dalam wastewater yang ada heavy metal, yang mana dia serap, zinc ke, cadmium ke, plumber. That's inspired that. Okay, absorption isotope is to describe as equilibrium studies that give the capacity of adsorbent and adsorbate. Friendlich Lamieux isotope is the earliest and the simplest relationship that describe the absorption equations. For the absorption isotope is described in many mathematical form, which is based on the simplified physical features of absorption and desorption. Others are purely empirical and intended to correlate the data. Okay, the absorption has a 6 type, which is the types 1 have a convex shape. So we can see from here, this is the graph of the convex shape. And this absorption is especially for the monolayer absorption, which is dia start absorb dari sini, dia akan meningkat, so dia akan berhenti kat sini, dia akan jadi constant disebabkan habis dah. Okay, where's the lepas tu for the types 2 and 3, especially for the absorption for the multimolecular layer, because the formations of the monolayer already absorb equilibrium. For types 4 and types 5, it is include sigmoid shape, the absorption process of multimolecular layer formation and condensation. For type 6, it's also sigmoid shape. It is represent the surface phase transition of a monomolecular layer on a homogeneous surface. Okay, all sigmoid shape shows that as pressure or concentration increases, amount absorbed increases slowly first, sharply, and then flattens out. This is the formula that we can use to calculate the amount of absorption capacity. It is include Langmuir equation, the Friendlich model, the Debening-Redan-Curvich model, and the Flory-Higgins model.
For the sorption kinetics and intraparticulate diffusivity, this is the graph of pseudo first order and pseudo second order. Pseudo first order and pseudo second order reaction models are used in kinetic absorption of heavy metals from wastewater. The pseudo first order is given by Lagergren 1989. And these are the equation that used in this study, which is pseudo first order, pseudo second order, LOV, and intraparticulate particle diffusion. And there are several factors that can be control of the sorption rate, which is diffusion of the solid from the solution to the film surrounding the particle, diffusion from the film to the particle surface, diffusion from the surface to the internal side, and uptake, which can involve several mechanisms.
Next, I will explain about intraparticulate diffusivity. Intraparticle diffusion control the initial rate of sorption. Crank 1975 proposed a model where diffusion is controlled by intraparticle mass transfer for a well-stirred solution of limited volume. Igwe and Abia 2005 proposed another model for intraparticle diffusion by using the linear driving concept. In all this model, it shows that sorption rate is governed by intraparticulate division. The intraparticulate division is a rate limiting step. Higher intraparticulate division induce enhancement in rate of sorption. Larger values of intraparticulate division illustrate a better absorption mechanism. Next.
So for the bioseparation process flow diagram, this is the diagram that is for the process. The wastewater, especially heavy metal bearing wastewater, is discharged into a collecting tank where there is also bioabsorbent in the tank after pretreatment and activation. The two are allowed to flow into a continuously stirred tank reactor where the absorption takes place after a specified hydraulic retention time. The solution is then allowed to flow into a filtration tank where the absorbent loaded with heavy metal and is separated from the treated wastewater. The treated wastewater is collected, whereas the metal saturated biomass is pumped into another continuously stirred tank reactor, which is here, where desorption takes place and then followed by filtration, and the heavy metal solution is collected, which may need some other purification process. The used absorbent is then recycled. So the conclusion is, it has been reviewed that the source and toxicology of heavy metals, as well as the reason why they need to be removed from the environment. Conventional methods of removal are expensive, so the use of low-cost, abundantly environmentally friendly bioabsorbents have been tested. However, studies about the technological aspect of heavy metal removed by bioabsorbent are scarce, which is rare. So further research is needed. And also, although bioabsorption is promising, its mechanism is not well elucidated, which is does not been explained properly, which it has not been researched more. This knowledge is essential for understanding the process, and it serves as a basis for quantitative stoichiometric consideration, which are fundamental for mathematical modeling and scale up. So the critiques that we have for this review paper is that it lack of data about the researchers that has been reviewed. Limited data are found in this paper, especially in terms of result and the discussion about the research. So specific numbers such as result from this research that were reviewed are not mentioned. And there is also lack of explanation on details of the mechanism. The details on the mechanism in the researches are not explained properly and only generally explained on the process, causing it to be hard to understand. That's all from us. Thank you. Any questions?